It's nice to see you again in this video. So now we are going to be attempting to solve this lab on our Potswinger Academy, and this lab, it is for SQL injection union attack, determining the number of columns returned by the query. So simply here they go on and tell us that this lab contains a SQL injection vulnerability in the products category filter. They go on further, they tell us that we are to use the union attack to retrieve the data from the other tables. So once you are ready to solve this lab, you just come and click here to access the lab, then you'll be brought to this page. So since they told us that our vulnerability, it is in the product category filter, so we can come back this side. I think this is our filter. So let's first click here on all. I think right away they just bring you to the all. We can see everything in our database. So I'm going to click to clothes, and when we try to look at our URL, you see that here we have the category equals to the clothes, and this is what we do have here. And let's say if we click on drinks, this is what we have: gifts, lifestyle, and others. So this is where we are going to go on and inject our SQL injection of the union attack. But before we proceed to that kind of attack, you need to understand how the union clause works in our SQL. So I'm going to open up my Obsidian. I try to design simple tables in here so that it can give you a good image. So with our union, it is going to go on and concatenate our tables. Now let's say if I do have a table here called users, and it has username, email, whereby we have just the username and also the emails. I also created another table, let's select for products, and we have the product and also the style. I just forged any information here. So I just said apple, style is red, orange, and also the color is orange. So you get the picture. So we have two tables, and all these tables, they do have information. So when we are to use our union attack, simply we shall go on and write a query that will be like select our user and email. Simply it is this one and that one from our users table. So that is just a single SQL query that can be executed. Then you can go on and add on our union, which will go on and concatenate all the information from these two tables. This is where we go on and add another SQL query that will be to select our product and style from the products table. Simply our result is going to be the information from all the two tables, whereby we shall have our green, Josh, apple, and orange, plus these other values in just a single table that will be returned back. So this is what we shall be using to our web page and see how many columns or shall we be able to view information from the other tables. So when you are to use the union clause in SQL, it follows up some rules, whereby here they say that the data types should be compatible. By the data type, simply these ones are going to describe how your information resides in your database. Now, when you try to see with our product and style, and for the values that we do have below of these, we have the apple, those are strings, and also for the style, we have red, that is a string, plus this orange you see down here. And up in our users table, where I have green and I have Josh, so we have strings. So let's say if we are to use our union clause on these two tables, since the data types do match, our union will be able to play along with this. But let's say if you had our numerics, let's say we had a number here, we have, let's say, a string here, there's a text, and we have a numeric. Now this will be hard for our union to work on these two tables. These are some of the rules our union is going to take when we are using it in our SQL. We also have another rule whereby they say that the number and the order of columns must be the same in all queries. Now, when you try to see in a simple SQL query that I wrote down here, which says that select the user email from our users table. Now, here I'm calling out only two field names from our table of user. And if I'm to write another SQL statement this side, I should make sure that if I'm calling two also this side, I should call two. Now let's say if this is 2 and I'm calling 3 this side, we should have an error. Those are the rules that are taken if we are to use our union clause in SQL. Now after understanding how our union works, let's go on and test and see if our category is vulnerable to our SQL injection. So here we are already on our lifestyle, which is this one. I'm going to just go on and just remove this lifestyle. I'm going to just put a single quote and see how the application will be working. So if I press enter, we see that we receive a internal server error, which simply shows us that we do have a SQL injection vulnerability. Simply our command, if it is select, let's say our user, comma, we go for the email, comma, from where? So we can just say from our table, I just press the comma here. We are going to say, let me just come back, email, then from our user. I'm going to come and fix this. So our query will be like this. Now, if we go on and let's say we put a code, for those who watched my previous videos, you'll be able to understand what happened here. So we received an internal server error, which simply means that to our query here, let's say if we are retrieving this, I'll just go to the where clause. You can just say where our cat, let me just say cat, a short form for a category, equals what could be our lifestyle. So this is where we use the quotes, since we are calling out strings in our database, we should put them in quotes. Now, if we come this side, we should put it in quotes and we terminate. Now, for us to put a single quote, simply we are leaving this to be blank and we have a single quote, and whatever is coming before that, simply that is going to give us a internal server error, which you see here. So we can go on and try to comment out, let's say after the single quote, and see how the application will be working. So I'm going to put a single quote space and comment out whatever will be coming next after this by just using a dash dash. Remember, you can use a hashtag, maybe depending on the database that you are using. So when you try to see here, after commenting out whatever comes before the single quote, we are able to go to our, let's say, our page, but we couldn't retrieve the information from the database since whatever is here before the quote is blank. So simply here now you can understand that we do have a SQL vulnerability. Now we can proceed to injecting our union attack and see if we may find the number of columns returned by the query. So here with our union, how we can solve this, since our union is to concatenate our tables, our query, let's say if we use the one on top here, going to just go on and copy this, paste it down. Then we use that for our study. Now, if we are to find a number of columns that were used, here I'm going to be using null and put a comma. So let's say if we don't receive back anything, or if we receive an error, I'll just go on and increment the null and see how many columns were returned back. And we can also use order by, whereby our information will be sorted maybe in ascending or descending. This is where we can also use an interceptor like BAPSuite, and we see how the application works. But before I go for BAPSuite, we can even solve this in our browser. So I'm going to come back this side, and before we comment that, I'm going to come here and I'm going to put, let's say, a single quote. Then we can provide to our union, or even before I put a single quote, I'll need, let's say, the gifts. Come back this side, and I'm going to provide just a single quote to close that, and I'm going to say my union and say select. What do we need to select? I'm going to just say null. Then before I say terminate, I'm going to just put a comment. Then if I submit this, you see that we have an internal server error. Now for me to know, let's say, how many columns, I have to just go on and add on the null to see how many columns could be, let's say, returned back from our database. So since I just pressed in a one null, I'm going to just go on and put another comma. But when you try to see here with our URL, it is encoded, whereby, let's say, if we are to send this to our BAPSuite, I'm going to come to my Fox proxy, I turn on the BAP, then I'm going to go to my BAPSuite and turn on the interceptor. So if, let's say, I come back this side and try to submit this with just the gifts, I just want to intercept that. Now we already have this request. I'm going to just forward this, and let's see how the thing works. So we already have this. I'm going to just say add advanced, then proceed to our web page. Now we already have this. I'm going to right click on it and send it to our repeater. In our repeater, which is here, let me go on and turn off my interceptor and go to the repeater. So here, this is where we are going to be injecting our SQL queries. Then this is where we shall be seeing the response. So I'm going to come this side to my gifts, put a single quote, then I'm going to just say union select, then we say null. Since I used null previously, I'm going to put a comma, then I'm going to add another null here, space, then dash dash. So I need to go on and encode this. So I'm going to highlight. Now to encode, I think it is Control U for URL encode. When you try to see where we had the space, they replaced them with a plus. So I'm going to send this, and let's see what will be returned back. So again, you see here we have a internal server error. In case if this is successful, we should have a status code of 200. So I'm going to go on and try to write it again. This time I'm going to put 3 nulls. I'm going to just go on and say select, then let's say null, comma, null again, comma, then we put our third null because previously we only had 2. I'm going to put a dash dash, then I have to come back, highlight this, press Ctrl U to be encoded, and let's try to send this. So after we submitted this, you see that we have a 200 OK status. But let's come back this side, and our lab is not solved. Let me try to refresh. I see, and they tell us that our lab is solved. So when you try to see here, it means that let's come back here. Since I have 3 nows here, it means our first query, it is calling out 3 field names from our database. So let me first come back here to my Obsidian. Let's give an example like this is our table. It means we do have 3 fields that are being called out from the database. Coming back to our website, let's say if we look at this, we only see our product and we only see the price. And I'll expect that this is just in the front end, and perhaps the ID is also being called from the database, and that totals up to our 3. So here we are done solving this lab of our SQL injection union attack, but we can even try to use order by. Before solving this lab, I went through the documentation of our SQL attack on Podswinger Academy, whereby they mentioned about the order by. So the order by will go on and sort our information in either ascending or descending, whereby if we are to use that, I'm going to come back this side, or let me go back to my BAP suite and remove this. So if we come to our gifts, going to just put a single quote, and I'm going to just say order by, and we are going to provide a 1, then space, single quote. So let me go on and highlight this, press Ctrl U, try to send it out and see the status code that we might receive, that is a 200 OK. And let's see, but since we turned through the other side, it will be better if we view this in our front end. I'm going to come here, put a single quote, then let's say order by, you put a 1, then a dash dash. So before I submit, you see we are starting on C, S, and H. So if I submit that, let's see if our information was arranged. It is still in the same sorting. So let's go on and change to a 2, whereby here, this is where I had a 1. So I'm going to remove that, or perhaps let me remove everything and go to a 2. So here I'm going to just put a single quote, order by 2. So if we press enter, let's see if any info will change on the site. And when you try to see, our information has been sorted starting from A to Z or Z, whereby you see our H and S have changed the position. We can also go on and add on another one. Perhaps let's add on a 3. If we add on a 3, it means now this one will be the one that will be sorted. You see that we start with 63 and 35 is in the middle. So if we come back this side, I'm going to delete this. We put our single quote, order by, and let's put a 3 here. So if I press enter, you see that 33 is on top, which means I've also sorted up our column 3, and so far we know that 3 is there. So let's go on and perhaps write a 4th one, because you never know, though we already know that there are 3 columns. But let's go on and check to the 4th one. So if I submitted that, you see that we have a internal server error. Following back our rules of the union attack, the number and the order of columns must be the same. So since we wrote order by 4 and received an internal server error, it means now the fourth one doesn't exist. We only have 3. So you can find all this information in the documentation about the SQL Union attack, and I'll be leaving these links in the description. So in case you want to see me working on multiple labs of SQL injection and other labs on Portswinger Academy, feel free to subscribe to my channel. You can give a thumbs up, and I'll see you to the next video. Have a good day. Peace.